Whilst Prof Work also joins us, we're live on 3FM 92.
To everybody, thank you very much. In fact, when I had the invitation to represent my boss, Honorable Edward Sapon, I thought it's a very great honor because it's a very critical moment and a critical issues. Now, why will I not accept and why will I play a very critical role? That is what I wanted to just give you a 1 minute brief of why this meeting is very important and why I must be here. Taking it from the IMF reports of 2024, coupled with a lot of reports domestically, you realize that Ghana will still have a challenge with a housing deficit of approximately 2 million. And what it means definitely is that people are sleeping outside. People are suffering. With our agenda we have of inclusive group, and when we are talking about inclusive group, we are talking about a situation whereby we need everybody to be part of the development we are having. With that gap, it means that there is a challenge. And always challenge opens up opportunities. And the opportunities is into the housing industry. But the question then is that can everybody follow the opportunity? No. If you look at our endings, it means that average Ghanaians will find it very difficult to afford a place to live. So all the policies that we need to do, we need to look at it vis-a-vis the standard of the people, what people can afford. We could sit here today and talk about building affordable houses. Affordable houses are over 100,000 USD. And you ask yourself, if you take average salary of Ghanaians, even those who are in the working class, are we be able to afford? If no, then you think about those who are in the rural areas. And then you think about those who are not working. So it means that we need to change the paradigm. And remember, when we are talking about housing, housing is a long-term purchase. Its demand is different from normal demand. So it means definitely that demand for housing is highly sensitive because it goes with expectation. And that expectation can fuel a lot of how the housing industry lives. So it means that as we are coming to take a decision, we need to also think about the expectations and the sensitivities of the housing industry. So I urge here that as we are going to have a discussion, the discussion should focus more on the level of earning in Ghana, what people can actually afford. You see, if you are going to take a housing loan for 10 years and above, because of the imports and then the income elasticity and the sensitivity, it's too different from the theory. So I want to urge that as we are here, the discussion should focus on how we can make this affordable to everybody, because I always say that affordability in our part of the world is just affordability for a few class, which doesn't make development inclusive. So I urge that we make the decision so practical, so that at least housing, I heard somebody mentioning 80,000 Ghana cedis. At least those are a little bit affordable for 4 years, 5 years, 10. So on this note, because we want to achieve inclusive growth with the SDG agenda, I wholly accept to chair this function. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. And indeed, could have said it any better than this, that there are many homes without people, there are many people without homes. And to bridge that gap is where policy comes in. And that's why we have the man who will tell us exactly what policies are in place to actualize and realize this dream of affordability. Because, Prof, it's indeed true that affordability is defined by the state of your pocket, the condition of your pocket. That defines how affordable any product is for you. $100,000, maybe kakra, certainly. So we want to hear from the policy perspective how to address this problem that we're faced with right now. Please help me with welcome Helen again to introduce our keynote speaker for the morning. Let's put our hands together for the English woman.
Another very impressive resume, so I'll take my time this time. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker this morning is a distinguished Ghanaian leader whose service and vision span defense, finance, and infrastructure development. Honorable Kenneth Gilbert Ejay serves as Ghana's Deputy Minister of Defense from 2012 to 2017, appointed by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. With a passion for creating systems that make the world a safer place, he has dedicated over 8 years to researching defense strategies aimed at countering terrorism and strengthening national security. Honorable Ejay is also a seasoned professional in the financial and insurance sectors, with expertise in risk management and strategic planning. Academically, he holds a Master of Arts in Peace, Security and Intelligence Management from UPSA, an Executive MBA in Marketing from the University of Ghana Business School, and a Bachelor of Science in Marketing from GIMPA. Today, as Ghana's Minister for Works and Housing, he is leading efforts to modernize water treatment and supply systems, champion sustainable housing, and address the pressing challenges of climate change and rapid urbanization. He's also a proud old boy of Opokuwari School, a son of the Ashanti region as well. Honorable Ejay embodies resilience, innovation, and leadership with a commitment to national development. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and help me warmly welcome our keynote speaker for today's Thought Leadership event, Honorable Kenneth Gilbert Ejay.
The Honorable Minister relies on clapping for motivation. So please, when you clap more, the anointing comes.
Thank you very much. Oh, please, we can have our seat. English, madam, thank you for the introduction. Mr. Chairman, the Group Chief Executive of Media General, distinguished invited guests, our friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honor and a privilege to deliver the keynote address at this important forum, which has brought together policymakers, financiers, developers, traditional leaders, innovators, to share insight on the resonant theme from blueprint to brick, making affordable housing work. This theme reflects our collective dedication, not just a slogan, but a clear call to action as we face an era where access to affordable housing is not just a matter of policy, but a moral imperative. Brothers and sisters, our cities are growing rapidly, and as a result, the demand for housing continues to rise. Our urban population now accounts for approximately 58%, an annual urbanization rate of 3.3%. This demographic shift underscores the urgent need for innovative and sustainable housing solutions. We therefore face a key challenge: how we can ensure that every person and family has access to safe, stable, and affordable housing. The question is at the heart of our discussions today. Our current housing situation requires urgent and collective action. Under the visionary resetting agenda of government, His Excellency the President is prioritizing the development of affordable, low-cost housing to restore the dignity of every Ghanaian. We believe that every Ghanaian deserves a safe and decent place to call home. It is not just an aspiration, but a fundamental right. I am confident that with concerted effort, President Mahama can and will turn this vision into reality for all Ghanaians. Currently, millions of Ghanaians are waiting for the first brick to be laid on a house they can truly afford. Research shows that only 5% of Ghana's population can afford to buy a house without assistance. 60% need support to access decent housing, while the remaining 35% require additional direct support, such as affordable mortgages and subsidies. In line with the National Housing Policy, we define affordable housing as accommodations that are reasonably adequate in standard and location for lower to middle income households. Such housing must not impose a financial burden so great that it jeopardizes their ability to meet other essential needs such as food, clothing, healthcare, and education on a sustainable basis. The Affordable Housing Program is based on the principle that for housing to be truly affordable, the cost should not exceed 30% of household income. This is our challenge, and this is our call to action. Today, we have a unique opportunity not only to have discussions, but also to commit to ending the housing deficit in a coherent manner. This forum, an important event under the auspices of Media General, marks a critical moment where vision must turn into real action. It is where policy must match reality on the ground, and political will must respond strongly to the silent suffering of families in desperate need of decent shelter. As a government, our commitment is clear: to turn these words into meaningful change and build a future where no one is left behind, where every Ghanaian can access the dignity of a safe, secure home. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources, we believe that every Ghanaian teacher, nurse, civil servant, banker, security officer, journalist, market trader, young graduate, or driver deserves not only shelter, but also the dignity of affordable, decent housing. This is not charity. It is economic sense, social justice, and the core of national development. A worker who can live near their workplace in a safe and stable home is more productive, more secure, and more empowered. A family that enjoys decent housing helps build stronger communities, and stronger communities drive national growth. At the ministry, we have introduced a number of interventions to address the housing shortages while meeting the evolving needs of residents, ultimately contributing to socio-economic empowerment. Beyond these interventions, the ministry has initiated a pragmatic approach to close the affordability gap and reduce the housing deficit. The initiatives include the following: government redevelopment program aimed at revitalizing prime public lands and infrastructure to meet the evolving needs of Ghana's public service and urban development. Security Services Housing Program in line with the government's commitment to providing decent accommodation for Ghana's security services. The National Rental Assistance Scheme to facilitate access to rental properties for qualifying beneficiaries, and the District Housing Program, among others. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as you may have observed, our efforts are not starting from scratch. We have revised the Affordable Housing Program, which builds upon lessons from past initiatives and the shared experiences of other countries. In partnership with the private sector, financial institutions, and trade unions, we are focusing on low to middle income earners, the backbone of our nation. Government provides land and horizontal infrastructure, while the private sector contributes vertical infrastructure. This collaborative approach ensures that the housing built truly meets the needs of our people. We are also working closely with traditional authorities and the Lands Commission to unlock underutilized land, and expedite titling for affordable housing projects. Through the National Home Ownership Fund and strategic partnerships with key financial institutions, we are introducing long-term, low-interest mortgage options, complemented by rent-to-own schemes and developer-backed payment plans. Government's aim is to ensure that housing finance is accessible and aligned with the realities of all citizens. To further reduce costs, we are championing the use of locally sourced sustainable materials such as compressed earth bricks, which can cut expenses by up to 30%. Recognizing that affordable housing should be accessible across Ghana, we are decentralizing delivery to ensure no region is left behind. Affordable housing is not just a priority of the ministry, it is Ghana's collective agenda. To developers, I say, let us expand beyond luxury-only developments and design homes for the ordinary Ghanaian. To financiers, it is crucial that we de-risk affordable housing projects and create financial products tailored to the incomes of our people. I remember when the Deputy MD was making a statement, he mentioned that, our chairman mentioned that we're talking about affordable housing, and he's sure that how many people are even earning that much to be able to pay for a $100,000 house. But Deputy MD, we're hoping that you will come up with products that will help our people. To families and traditional leaders, I encourage you to leverage communal lands to create community homes. To the media, I call on you to continue holding us accountable and to help tell the inspiring stories of families who have finally found a place to call a home. And to every Ghanaian, your voice matters. Please share what affordable means to you and describe your dreams of a home, because that is what will guide us. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, let me take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to the management of Media General for organizing this program. Allow me also to acknowledge and thank our invaluable partners, private developers such as Grader, as well as our development partners, including the World Bank, UNOPS, Shelter Afrique, UN Habitat, UN Environment Program. Your collaboration over the years has been vital, and we remain deeply grateful. Success depends on our collective efforts. Let us therefore seize this moment. Let us move from words to actions, transforming plans into concrete actions, blueprints into bricks. It's my sincere hope that by the end of this forum, we will not only have fostered meaningful dialogue, but also developed practical solutions to our housing challenge. As a ministry, we are committed to creating an environment that supports innovation, sustainable financing, and strong partnerships. Together, let's build the Ghana we want, a nation where opportunity, equity, and dignity are within everyone's reach. May today's conversations become tomorrow's construction sites. God bless you, and God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Keynote Speaker, Honorable Minister for Works, Housing and Water Resources. And indeed, this conversation must lead to turning vision to reality of affordable housing, policy to action. Political will must respond to the plight of the people. And indeed, the voices of ordinary Ghanaians matter on what affordability means. Let's put our hands together for the Minister once again. Thank you. And it is on the basis of this particular call of the ordinary Ghanaian voices being meaningful and important in the conversation about affordable housing. That's why we're here this morning. Our audience would also have the chance to ask questions and demand the accountability that you talk about, because this is not the first time we've gone on this path of promising affordable housing. But then again, the point that you make, which is critical, is that this conversation about affordable housing must be hinged on cost, relatively low cost housing. Maybe we can change the phrase from affordable housing to low cost housing. That will resonate, isn't it? That's better. So we're going to go with low cost housing. The low cost too, is relatively subjective, depending on the condition of your pocket. Anyway, but it's a way to go, and that's why we're here this morning. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. We do appreciate you. We know that you have equally important activities to attend to. Let's put our hands together for the Minister once again. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to go straight into our go for a quick break. When we're back, we'll get into our panel discussion for the morning. We'll have our panel members. Here's what the structure will be. The panel members will come, state brief comments about specific areas that they're going to talk about, and then afterwards we'll have the panel discussion. So they'll have 10 minutes each to deliver a speech on specific thematic areas, and then we'll go straight into the discussion with the panel members, and you would also have the opportunity to ask them questions. Does it work? Are we good? Perfect. We're going to go for this quick break. When we're back, the panel conversation starts right now. Let's put our hands together. Thank you.
In 1965, a seed was planted.
Returning from abroad or seeking a new beginning, Rehoboth Havens Ayimensa is where your journey truly begins. Nestled beneath the tranquil Ebri Mountains, this gated community offers the perfect
Welcome back. This is the Media Journal Thought Leadership event, and it's on the theme From Blueprint to Brick, Making Affordable Housing Work. And you heard the Minister in charge of Works, Housing and Water Resources make the point very important that this conversation has to contribute to translating the vision of affordable housing to reality. And that's exactly why we're here this morning. We're going to get straight into the panel conversation, but before that, let me acknowledge our sponsors who are giving us the support for this event this morning. I want to say thank you to Rehoboth Properties Limited, Quality Housing for All, ADB Bank PLC, Beyond Banking, National Home Ownership Fund. Thank you very much. Labadi Beach Hotel, where we are, and Syntex Tank. You're strong. You're tough. Thank you very much for the support you're giving to us this morning. We're live on TV3 and also on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook, on DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Our first speaker will speak on scaling the hurdles of affordable housing. The process of acquiring suitable land for social housing is complex and fraught with issues. As we all know, challenges include expensive land cost, the lack of clear and secure land tenure and title system. Also, we have issues related to land guards, as we are going to spend some time to talk about. Even before we started this conversation, a number of you had highlighted the problem of land guards. These problems add significant cost and delays to housing development in the country, and the bureaucratic hurdles can delay construction and increase cost, making it harder to achieve this objective of affordable housing. And that's why our first speaker this morning is going to take quite some time to get into understanding the challenges and making recommendations to how to solve the challenges so identified. He is a professor of architecture, Department of Architecture, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, KNUST. Please help me make welcome Professor Eso Afram. Let's put our hands together for Prof.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for having me. I have a few slides to show because I'm an architect as well as a teacher, right? And architects, normally when we talk and we don't show, we deal with optics, you wouldn't understand me, right? So I have a few slides I'll show as I go. In fact, I am not in control of the slides because they are doing it for me. So I'll go quite fast. If you don't see this, those on radio, I'm sorry, I will try to vocalize it so that you'll be in the loop as we go along. But this, it's not very clear, but it's a compressed mud house, right, with an air conditioner there. So you can see the paradox as well as, I call it an oxymoron, a rich poor man's house, where you have an air conditioner. But the bombshell I want to tell you that, in fact, the minister said it, the best material we can afford is the compressed mud or laterite mix stabilized, right? You can stabilize it and it will work for us. The rich man will have that kind of advantage of not even putting on the air conditioner because that material is sustainable, right? The thermal mass of it prevents heat coming in. The poor person too will get the benefit of having a cheaper material. And already, what is affordable? The minister said it, that is about if you have 30% of your income, you can be able to afford the house. But sometimes, the 30% is the global understanding. If you say 30%, is it a gross or your monthly income with net? No, it's the gross. But you see, abroad, 30 incomes work so much. But when you come to our situation, the incomes are so low because of our productivity, such that the gap between the income and the shelter, it's like you having a 2,000 cedis and you want to date a slave queen. It wouldn't work, right? It wouldn't work because then the slave queen will advise herself. So sometimes the gap is that we don't need the house, we want a house. And that's the difference between a want and a need. So if you need a house, you can get it. But if you want a house, maybe you do more than what you have been thinking of. But just to give you an idea, the housing is not just houses on a landscape. There are houses that are linked by a system, right? The individual houses are linked to services, facilities, utilities to a community. So they work like an organic thing. And they are also linked to the region. So a substation somewhere, maybe powering a house here. So if they don't work as an organism, it will not work. If your house has a drain and the next one doesn't have a drain, it's useless. So it has to be a system, right? So housing is a system. Yeah. But I identify 4 things that negatively impact housing. One is the land cost and accessibility. Accra, you can't even get the land. When you get it, you buy it, I think, 2 or 3 times, right? And then cost of the development itself, the materials involved, they're almost all imported. Then the access to finance, and I think the financiers are here, they will tell us. And then the last will be the infrastructure provision, which even the government find it very difficult to. The minister talked about social housing, which I think is something that we all will have to think about. We'll talk about this when we get to the discussion stage. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. I don't want to waste too much time. Yeah. Then we have something we call the housing mix. This is a mix that most African countries don't use in their housing, their search for housing. You know, it's made up of, come back. It's made up of legislation, policy, the housing development itself, housing finance, construction, what type of construction, then allocation, management and maintenance. That is what rounds down our estates. You do a very nice estate, there's no maintenance, there's no management. And that is why turns these models into slums as we go along. So as an architect and practitioner, I also have ideas that I think I will look at the housing for the architectural perspective, right? I looked at the location of this housing. I think a few things have been said about it. The design concept, you see, there's some concept if you use to design, you attract the middle income people. I am thinking of the urban poor only, right? If we can take care of the urban poor, the low incomes, we can take care of the middle income. So if you use a certain concept which attracts the urban poor, we will have what you call gentrification. You know, the rich people come and take over, and the poor people are still in the slums. But if you use a certain concept that is not attractive to the middle income, they won't come, and that they will leave it for the. And then, what kind of construction technology can we use to make it affordable? And this is an architect's point of view. So let's look at this. The poor have a certain rationality, and it was stated, they like to stay near where they work. Because walking means that no transportation. So most of them, because of their low skills, they are paid less. So maybe he gets 1,000 cedis a month, and then he uses maybe 20 cedis a day. 20 times, maybe 25 days, maybe it's about 500. So half of the money is gone. So he rather like to go and stay at a slum, right? And walk to a slum. You can pay 2 cedis a night, just for the night, and you stay. And that's the real affordable housing. That's the real one. Let's go. I don't want to waste too much time. No, let's go back. This one, I just had this map to show you something. This orange dot you see are all slums. You know, you have in East Legon, University of Ghana, Staff Village, Red Manuel Dre, Manet Villa, Kios Estate. They are all, and they are within the city. You see, because they are the nerve center of the city. Look, the drivers, mates, rubbish collectors, garbage, they are part of the city. So they come work early to work. And then we say that, in our planning, we don't want the poor people to be in the affluent areas. They should go to the periphery, Kaswa and other side. They won't go. They will stay here. That's why they are here. That's why Nima has thrived so far. Zamon Zongo and Sodom and Gomorrah, because these people are the people we need. The colonial people built boys' quarters because they knew that they need these people with them. And they stayed with them. But when we came and took over, we think, our extended family should come in and then they go away. And they sat for slums. But the idea is that when we do planning for a city, we should think of the poor as part of us. I told the MD yesterday that, look, if you look at this between us, if you look at the human anatomy, right, our playground, playground, is next to the waste disposal. If you understand me, if you don't understand me, that's okay. You play too much, you get wasted, right? So you have to be careful. They have to live together as the poor and the rich, and it can work. So I have decided that why don't we use the traditional compound house for the low-income people, because that's what we are using. Let's go back. Our antecedents show that we can easily use it. So you look at this. If you look at this Ghana Statistical Service 2019, Western region has compound houses 47%. In the central region, it's almost 60. Greater Accra 60.8. The last time I checked, it's about 42.5 because of apartments. It's come down a bit. But Eastern region, Asante 62, Brahavo 60, Northern 70. So we are basically all for the village. And that's what we use the traditional. So why don't we use our antecedents and build? Let's go ahead. I'll show you something that will confirm this. You see these two pictures. This one is a typical rural setting where the houses are built separately, but they are around a compound. If you see it, you think it's just houses, but they are around a compound. When they move to the city, with the same antecedents and culture, because our culture is very communal. We live together, and the poor live together more than the rich. My place where I'm staying, we all have walls. When somebody shouts, I won't even go there. But these people, when somebody shouts, they all come. So this, if you put it together, that's why you get a compound house, right? The compound house is the best that we can use for the low income. And I don't think a middle income person would like to go there. So if you design it, so let's design. The problem is that I'll show you the problem. Let's go ahead. This is a typical compound house. I've just broken it down. But the outside is public area. The inside, the yellow spot, is a semi-public where everything happens. Children playing on the supervision, drying of goods, cooking, etc. That veranda around, the dark area shaded, is a semi-private. That's where they sit, they converse with each other, supervise their children, etc. Then the green spot is the private zone. So you see, they have a hierarchy of spaces which helps in a communal living. Let's go. And one thing about the compound house is that it can grow by accretion. It means that if you have money for even one room, you can keep on increasing as and when you want, gradually, and get your compound. So you see a compound house which is L-shaped, it's U-shaped, so your money, the money you get that's affordable. You build room by room, right? Let's go to the next one. So this is a typical one I took from Kumasi. You see, they have a sitting area, which is they call it patio. And the sitting area is their living room, everybody's living room, because they can't afford living rooms individually, so they share. So that's why if you have a visitor, Auntie Mason, there you go there, right? They use it for funerals, laying in state, etc. But they share kitchen and the bathroom. The only negative thing about it is that my research with the students every time was that they were always fighting about the scrubbing of the bathroom, utilities, pay more. One funny story, if I think I'm lying, one guy we met there, he was listening, when they were collecting the utilities, money for utilities, they said he should pay more. Why? He listens to BBC and VOA. So they told us it was a long distance radio. I don't know how that one works out. So there was a fight about that. And let's go. Now I'll show you this is a typical compound house in Kumasi, right? Those were all compound houses, but they've been broken down and then they're going up because of the value of land. Ground floor will be used for shops, but they still maintain the compound, only that you can't go up and hang around. So that's what I'm talking about. Let's go to the next. Then there are bigger ones now. Next. Yeah, now these are the big ones that 4-story. And it houses a lot of low-income guys. One time there was a fire in one of them. The people that came out, I thought it was a sports stadium, right? There were a lot of, everybody was saying, so are these people all in this house? See, yeah, they're all from the house. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, and this one in the northern region, the same thing happens. The compound housing, right? The father had a compound with the wife. When he has a child, the child comes of age, he also add to it. So they keep on increasing organically. And this is a concept that we can use to start co-housing. If you don't have money and have a land, you can start with 1 bedroom, a toilet, right? You get money, you expand it. So that concept, we can easily use it. It's not a matter of affordable or not. You want to have a will, you'll be able to do it. Let's go. So now, let me just put together let's go. Affordability. The compound house is affordable. Technology is easy because of if you use the Lancrete block. If you use sand and mix it with a little bit of cement, 10% cement, and you make the bricks, you can easily plaster it, it will never fall off. Our research center in Tech is built of 2 stories of Lancrete blocks for about 20, 30 years now. It's still there. Nobody knows it until you tell that this. In fact, we have exposed part of it so you can see that it's Lancrete, right? Then capital efficiency. I told you, you have money, a little money you have, you can keep on building compound housing as you go along. Then the space hierarchy I've told you about already. Then security. One thing about the security is that house has a passive security you don't know. Because when you enter, always there's somebody there because it's a compound house, either an old lady, an unemployed guy, a small child, or a disabled person in there. So nobody can steal there. If something gets lost, they know who stole it. It's a resident thief. They just go and get him, right? And then the last one, adaptability. This is one of the best ones, adaptability. Because the houses are all straight and lined, if you want to change one of them into maybe a salon or a tailoring shop or a shop, you just break the window facing the shop, right? Without disturbing anybody next to you. You don't break anything. But look at our modern houses. You have to remove a roof. You have to remove a toilet before you can get a shop. So putting it all together, let's go. Yeah, I have decided that what we can do, I think somebody said it there, that let's get the authorities to get standard house areas. We'll say, okay, a bed sitter, I have the blue and the yellow only, I've just borrowed it. A bed sitter should have maybe 30 meters squared toilets so that they themselves will have it. So everybody knows that if a one bed sitter is 30 meters squared, any architect can design it any way, but still it will be 30 meters squared. So we know the material, we know the size is standard. Somebody said we should have standard windows, standard everything. So we can immediately know the cost. And because we are standardizing it, it's cheaper. Then we can have a one-bedroom flat where we don't give him a living room, we give him a utility area where he can use it for everything that he wants to do. Then maybe 2-bedroom. So we emphasize on the 1-bedroom, 1-bedroom sitter, and a 2-bedroom. Let's go. The last part. So now the construction. I was saying that you can do a lot of things with the construction. Can we? Now we are doing what we call post and beam, columns, slabs, and the roof. Can we then, if we want to use this, let's use it. But in between the partition walls, let's use Lancrete. 30% of the cost of the building will go, right? But then, why don't we try to experiment with the last one? The next slide, please. You see, we use what we call cross-wall construction, which is we remove all the columns and do walls. The walls will support themselves. The wall will sit here, another will sit on top of the wall. The next press will sit on top of the wall. The one below will be slightly bigger, and the next one will be slightly smaller. So the weight is reduced. We remove the columns, but we use the slabs, and then we put the roof on. Let the roof come. So we are not taking a large chunk of the iron rods out. This can be researched. It may be difficult for places where there are earthquakes because the earthquake zone needs a frame. But that's why we have engineers here. China, they will do it. So let's get engineers get busy. So I'm throwing this in that we should be looking at this. And when we do this, with the partition walls are laterite, as sand, I'm sure we'll get about 40 or 45% off. So now let's put it all together. The next slide. This, I'm just putting affordable housing location should not be on the periphery. 1, 2, let's go quickly. My time is up. Adapt the traditional compound house concept. I've told you that the government approved basic designs of floor areas. Whatever I've said should be done. Then we should have bed. The emphasis should be bed sitters, 1-bedroom and 2 bedrooms. That's it. That's what they can afford. You see, they use the spaces. When they have even 5 children, some will sleep in the kitchen. Some will sleep in the hall. I've slept in the kitchen before. So I don't see. So in the night, in the morning, they pack their things and off they go. So you don't have to provide them too many rooms that they can afford, right? And then this sort of cross-subsidy, I haven't said it, but it will be the best if we can. Cross-subsidy basically means that these are large construction firms. When they come, they build the apartments, and sometimes I want 120,000 or something, they will sell it at $500,000. So why don't we have a policy that when they come and say, oh, you want to build 2 million worth of apartments, government says there's a policy here. 2 million, you build 5% affordable housing on the land I'm providing, right? So if you lie and 100,000, you take it to 500, the more you raise it, the more houses you pay. And that will put some kind of reference to whatever we are saying, right? And then I'm talking of research and experiment with cross-wall and load bearing. Like I said, the engineers come in and research. But I'm throwing just in, like KSK will say, everybody they eat for your website, everybody chop for your website. This is our award-winning design I'm talking about. They had a competition in Copenhagen, and our students, KU University Department, took part, right? And it was on sustainable homes for the future, sustainable home for the future. So the student took part, and we used the compound house concept, and they loved it, right? We used compound, so you see this one compound house. Then we used 4 of them around a courtyard. So it became a spaces that comes into each other, and it was, let's go. So this one shows the area view. That's the court in there. Every house has a compound yard. And we name it as Ebusiafie. That's how we do the name, Ebusiafie. And let's go. That's that we use also laterite and brick and kind of stuff for the next. That's a court in there. People can hang around. Next. And that's that we won. We won that prize in that category, right? Out of 16 schools, right, we won. And these are my proud students, led by Professor Alex Mafo. He did a marvelous job with them. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm done.
Thank you. Wonderful. He is not done yet. There's more to talk about during the panel conversation. Let's put our hands together for Professor S.O. Afram. Prof, thank you. Thank you very much. And the differentiator that we are bringing to this conversation that, others will have the view that has been recycled over time is the practicality of the recommendations that we're making. And what Prof has talked about defines exactly why this conversation, the module that we put together for this conversation this morning, is extremely important. Let's put our hands together for Prof once again. Prof, thank you. Thank you very much. And we go on to our next speaker. But before that, let me acknowledge the representative of the Greater Accra Regional Minister. He's behind, Mr. Kelvin. Let's put our hands together for him. Thank you. Also, acknowledge the presence of the former regional minister, the Greater Accra Regional Minister, and then also a former member of parliament for the Bong Katamanso constituency, and now the chief of Katamanso, and he is also representing Obuade Noche, King Professor Odaifio Welenchi, Paramount Chief of Nungwa Traditional Area, who is also the president of the Greater Accra Regional House of Chiefs, Tache Ni Laye Akwete, the 10th. For those of us who know him quite well, we know him as Ni Laye Afotiagbo, and the name has changed. So if the Ni Laye Afotiagbo rings a bell, then that's him. So please, no mistaken identity. Thank you very much for making the time to join us as well. And land is very important central to this conversation that we're having this morning. So it's good that we have the traditional leaders and the owners of the land as well joining us. Our next speaker would speak the next 10 minutes on social housing in Ghana, facing significant challenges that hindered efforts to address the country's huge housing deficit, estimated over 2 million units. These issues range from economic constraints to institutional failures, and his speech for the next 10 minutes will be hinged on between social and affordable housing. Please help me make welcome Dr. Ni Kojo Ankra II. Please, let's put our hands together for him. He's speaking about housing and regeneration as well. He's a consultant with vast knowledge in that respect. Thank you, Doc.
Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for the opportunity to be part of this gathering. And I would like to state that all protocols have been observed. I'll try and be very brief, because the best part of this program, I believe, will be the question time. But I want to contribute to the discourse in a way that will set the ball rolling. My intervention was to look at juxtaposing social housing with affordable housing. And I stand here with humility, wearing a few different hats that I believe affords me the privilege of being at the table. I ran into my friend, Professor Afram, this morning, and for some reason, he didn't know that I was the person on the panel. And so he said to me, you know what, I've referenced you in my presentation. And I said, why don't you tell them? I think he wanted to save that to the last. In my first publication, I reference a scripture that says that, you must get understanding. And I think when it comes to housing delivery in Africa, it's very important that we get the understanding of the subject matter. Otherwise, a lot of our efforts will go down the line. I'm going to be bold in stating that this program is so timely, we cannot underestimate it, because for the past 68 years or so after independence, we've been grappling with this problem. And I remember when I was in office, we were quoting the national housing deficit as being 1.8 million, the national housing deficit. And today, when you do the research, you realize that the housing deficit is around the same figure. I think one of the earlier speakers mentioned 2 million. Is that correct? Okay, and if that is correct, then it means that certain things have been held constant, which defies reality. So I think we need to have this conversation in a way that is honest, in a way that it is enabling for us to find solutions. If we are not honest about the issues, we will be here next year talking about the same things, and I left office about 11 years ago. And if we are quoting these figures, then there are serious issues. And I'm looking forward to the panel discussions. But I'll quickly use the next few minutes to make a case for the need for a social housing vision for this country. Because sometimes people think it's semantics, sometimes others think that, it's just terminologies, but there's a reason why we have to define things so that we can all be on the same page. Because if we're comparing pears and apples, we're going to be in trouble. You see, if anybody conducts a desktop research this morning, they're going to find a few of the things I'm going to share with you now. And once we have gotten the understanding of the distinction between social housing and affordable housing, and we are all on the same page, I think the conversation will change and it will lead us to where we want to go. If you Google right now, social housing has been defined by one source as a government-subsidized, stable housing for people with very low incomes, such as those experiencing homelessness or with disabilities. I think we should pay attention to the definitions, because I'm going to point an abnormality that will settle the matter once and for all. Then we can consume what is being presented to you. Now, that is social housing definition. The affordable housing definition is a broader category. That is the affordable housing. It's a broader category or concept that includes social housing for low to moderate income households who may not be able to afford market rate housing, but are not necessarily the most vulnerable. This suggests that you have to be very vulnerable to qualify or be eligible for social housing. Is that not the argument? Okay. The next definition says that social housing targets primarily people with very low to low incomes who are most in need, including those with disabilities, the elderly, and those facing homelessness. And the goal is to provide stable, secure, and genuinely affordable long-term housing to those unable to afford the private rental market. Then we come to what we call eligibility criteria. The eligibility criteria is based on income, which is typically set at percentage of the area's median income. And I think Prof mentioned the 30%. You see, when it comes to housing provision, we are talking about disposable income. What income is available to you to spend? So whether it's gross or net depends on your particular definition in your area. So what is the relationship between affordable housing and social housing? Well, Another source says that social housing is a type of affordable housing, therefore all social housing is affordable. But not all affordable housing is social housing. What I'm trying to point here is that the terminology or the semantics are irrelevant, because we have also noticed, it's well documented, that we live in an area where income levels are very low. So if we are talking about housing delivery, it's important to understand the distinction between supply-side strategies and demand-side strategies. And so regardless of what we call it, at the end of the day, we want to put people into homes. That is housing. The semantics or the terminology becomes relevant when we come to the point of considering eligibility. What is the size of the problem? What are the issues that we want to address? Primarily, we need housing. We've not been able to house people for over 68 years, and we're still struggling. So at the end of the day, technically, our workers who are unable to pay market rents for housing in areas where their work is located are vulnerable. They are vulnerable just like the categories that social housing recognizes. Then when we come to affordable housing, there are several definitions of affordable housing. In the UK context, I think Prof also mentioned that developers are giving government lands in prime areas and they are giving quotas. They call it Section 106. So within that definition, in the UK, affordable housing is just a very small component of social housing provision. But when you go to America, it's different. We need to find a bespoke policy that will lead us into the blueprint of legislation, that leads us to standardization, that leads us to where we are all on the same page, so that we know that as we move across the country, we take cognizance of the regional variations of resources. Because we come to have these conversations, and sometimes we are comparing pears and apples, and you're wondering, are we talking about the same things? This is the reason why we have been grappling with affordable housing. It was funny hearing the presenter, jokingly suggesting that we should consider talking about low-cost housing or low-income housing. He's very young, so I don't blame him. But for those of us who have been around for a while in the housing sector, it actually started with low-income housing, low-cost housing. If you go to certain parts of the country, they are spread across all the place. Then we graduated from that to the buzzword of the 80s, affordable housing. So people have become so defensive of affordable housing. But I want to postulate this morning that it's irrelevant. What we need to do in order to begin to address the problem in an effective manner is to agree on the definitions. We agree on the issues that we are confronted with. We have low incomes. We have challenges with access to land. We have access to finance, both the demand side and the supply side. What is it that we ought to do together to solve the problem? I think the issue of government cannot be left out. Government has a role, but what exactly do we want government to do? And I believe that this conversation will lead us to look at these specific aspects of the conversation, which should lead us to implement a blueprint that will lead us into delivering houses for the people. I believe that it is not beyond us. In the last few months, I have had the opportunity to engage some players in the industry. And I'm very confident that what we are looking at in Ghana today is our yes moment. That once we deepen the conversation and we bring all the stakeholders to the table, we will recognize the importance of the tripartite foundation that ought to be at the table. Government should be speaking to academia, and academia should be speaking to industry. In that tripartite relationship, I believe that we have all the tools and all the opportunities to come up with the goods once and for all. Because if we have government or owners of policy not talking to academia that has all the information and all the examples around the world, what works and what doesn't work, and then industry, the players on the ground who are the practical implementers of what is happening, I think we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot. But I want to be very optimistic this morning, reserving my time for the interactions during the panel discussions. I came with a whole thesis I have decided to do off-tempo, put it aside, because the real issue really is about hearing you, what you think and what needs to be addressed. I think we have done too much talking in the past. Let's look at how we can, invite practical problems so that we can propose practical interventions so that we will make this a different type of engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm done. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nee Kojo Ankra II. Thank you very much. Go on straight to our next speaker, and he will have 10 minutes on affordable housing. What does the National Home Ownership Fund bring? Please help me make welcome the CEO of the National Home Ownership Fund, Prosper Hoitu, who will give us the next 10 minutes, what they're offering, and that will lead us straight into our panel conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think it's a great honor to join this conversation today. And we are having this discussion at a very timely moment, where I heard a couple of weeks ago that the Tenants Association are threatening to go on a demonstration over high cost of rent. And it reflects the fact that we as a country need to do more to address the challenge of housing. This conversation also connects directly to the mandate and the vision of the National Home Ownership Fund. And we are so excited that Media General has taken the lead to bring all of us together, and I want us to commend them for this initiative. Housing is something that affects most of us, and it is something that we should continue to discuss, to explore ideas that we can use to collectively address the challenge. I listened to the professors and the seniors in the industry. But the bottom line is addressing both the demand and supply side challenges of housing require financing. That's the bottom line. Because developers need cheaper resources to invest in housing. And the data is telling us that only 5% of Ghanaians can afford to buy houses without any form of assistance. A significant number of 60% require some form of intervention, government support or assistance to be able to do that. And when it comes to social housing, I'm happy that this is the conversation that preceded, the presentation that preceded mine, is that we need about 35% of the population require social housing. Our operational definition is what the professor mentioned, that for social housing, these are vulnerable people who need some subsidized housing. And so there must be some intervention one way or the other to provide that. And I think that as a nation, we have failed significantly in doing that, compared to other countries that provide social housing programs, consistently building houses, targeting the vulnerable so that they can also have decent houses. One of the challenges that confront, we keep talking about the quantitative deficit, but our qualitative deficit is about 30%, which means that 30% of Ghanaians live in places that are deplorable. They live in slums, to put it bluntly. And we know the complications that come with people living in such areas. Our health bills, our sanitation conditions go up. So if we want to address these issues, then we must deliberately, as a state, provide funding for these initiatives. I compare our situation to countries like Kenya and others that have set up housing funds, and they use that to address some of these challenges. And we have started an advocacy that in this country, when we had challenges with educational infrastructure, we set up Get Fund. We had challenges with financing our health sector. What did we set up? National Health Insurance Fund. And we have several funds addressing several challenges. When we say that shelter is a basic human need, according to Maslow's theory, and that decent housing is an integral part of decent work. And so why is it that as a country, it has not become so critical for us to set up a dedicated statutory fund that we will use to intervene to provide housing? And I think it's something that we are at a point that we need to consider that. It's a basic human need, it's a fundamental human right, it's a challenge that we must collectively confront, just as we did through Get Fund and other funds. So we are asking for a statutory fund that will go into housing. And how would that happen? That is where the NHF story comes in. The National Home Ownership Fund was incorporated as a state-owned company. And its mandate is to address both or respond to both the demand and supply side challenges of housing. So when it comes to supply side, how do we assist developers to get cheaper funds to build houses? And so the fund began by partnering with certain financial institutions to provide low-interest facilities to them to be able to develop these houses. So they could get facilities as low as 12%. And currently our rate is about 18%, which is advanced through these financial institutions. Then we say, guys, this is what we've given you. But if you look at the income levels of the workers, they can only afford houses with these kinds of specifications and amounts. So how do we help you to build to those specifications so that they will be affordable? And so the fund began to do that. And then it achieved that through some private PPPs by building a model community in Temakom 22, and some other projects are running. Then when it comes to the demand side, if the data is telling us that 60% of workers or Ghanaians need some government assistance to be able to acquire homes, then there must be some intervention that will respond to that. So the fund then partners these same financial institutions through a blended financing approach where the fund brings some money, the financial institution also brings some money, and then we apply the 91-day 3B rate to strike an average. And currently, our interest rate on the mortgage under the National Mortgage Scheme is about 13.5% compared to the commercial rate, which I think the least I've seen is about 18% now, upwards. Then you notice that a lot more people, because of the flexibility with the underwriting criteria, a lot more workers were able to take up these mortgages. But subsequently, the fund piloted another scheme, which is the rent-to-own scheme, to address the challenges with the mortgage. Because with mortgage, you need to make some deposit, about 20%. And then if you are not able to raise that, it means you are out. But the rent-to-own scheme works such that you pay rent, and part of the rent is equity towards eventual ownership. And so you are paying rent, and you know that there is hope. It's not a rent that you are paying and there's no hope. Practically, people hustle to raise 2 years' rent. And by the time the rent is due, they have not even paid the loan that they raised to pay that rent. But the rent to own, you are in, and then it's so flexible that even if you get some money, you can reduce your capital, whatever you use to the cost of the property. Yes. So you can reduce it, and even though it's between 10 and 20 years maximum, you can even pay earlier, and then the property becomes yours. Now, and so these pilot schemes have benefited quite a number of workers, and what we need now is to expand it to cover a lot more. And this is the time that, because of financial challenges, the fund is limited. And so we believe that if we advocate for a statutory fund, it will help us a lot to expand this program. It means that we'll have a lot more support for these financial institutions, expand it to cover more of them, because our mortgage penetration is extremely low. It's 0.3% of GDP compared to other countries that have higher mortgage penetration. So part of the mandate of the fund is to also establish a mortgage refinancing company. And when we say some financial institutions are not happy, but let me explain. The company is not going to compete with the financial institutions. What it does is to buy mortgages off the banks. And that frees them they will get more resources to even expand the mortgage, because we want to work to develop the local currency mortgage market to cover as many workers as possible. So we are working closely to make sure that we set up such a mortgage refinancing company. And then as they try to recapitalize the bank by buying the mortgages of the books, then we'll be able to reach a lot more people. But we are encouraging financial institutions to help us grow the mortgage market through development of various products, and we are positioning ourselves to even introduce training programs to promote competition, so that different kinds of products can be developed to promote access to financing for workers or Ghanaians generally in addressing our challenge. Our model has been quite successful, because from the examples of what we've seen so far, at commercial rates, a buyer who earns about 5,000 cedis a month could qualify for only 250,000 cedis mortgage. But under our scheme, because of the concessionary rates, that same buyer who earns 5,000 a month can qualify for 400,000 cedis to buy a property, compared to a property which could be the same property which could be on the market rate for about 600,000. And so you can see that the intervention has worked in reducing both the cost of the house and also the cost of financing in terms of mortgage in addressing that. Now, one of the challenges that has come up, which we want to also highlight, is leveraging local materials for affordable housing. For some reason, we have so much high taste for foreign items, including local materials. So the data shows that we import about 80% of our building materials in this country, creating jobs for other people and stimulating their economy, and rather impoverishing our own people. And the use of local materials is also environmentally sustainable. It's mind friendly. We are going to reduce carbon emissions and all that. And so it's one area, and the material used, the standardization. These are all things that we are thinking about. At least, even if the ministry does not start, we don't have a national policy, we at NHF may want to start something by standardizing some of these things, working closely with the Ministry of Works and Housing to ensure that whatever project that we finance, they will fall within those standards and will benefit from the economies of scale in terms of the production of those materials, windows, doors, and things like that. And so I think this is a very important conversation, and we look forward to sharing more ideas with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together for the National Home Ownership Fund. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our final speaker would join esteemed panel members. William Sasu is Managing Director of Rehoboth Properties. He's going to be speaking on social housing scheme in Ghana. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Sasu. And they have a practical representation of the conversation that we're having this morning. So he'll walk us through exactly what Rehoboth is doing and why that should be a model to follow. Thank you.
All protocols observed. Mr. Chair, I'm happy to be part of this function this day to unravel the conversation on affordable housing. The topic, Blueprint to Block, Making Affordable Housing Work. And I'm speaking from the perspective of a developer. So do indulge me as I seek the interests of developers in this conversation. The popular quote, birds have nets, foxes have holes. How come that men do not have places to lay our heads? We will find out what is happening in our part of the world. The question of how to make affordable housing work has been asked by developers, by government. It has been asked by academia and also by public servants. As we gather here to deliberate on this topic, I'm hopeful that this conference will set the tone to provide some answers, not only to the question of translating from blueprint to block, but also to be able to establish clearly the nagging question of affordability and accessibility, which is crucial to the ordinary Ghanaian, and also ensure that housing, which is a socio-economic issue, is well addressed. I work for Rehoboth Properties, and as I said earlier, we are developers. We will share our experiences that we have gathered over the period and walk you through the memory lane by unfolding some of the projects that we have done at Rehoboth Night Bridge. And then we will also seek to unpack what we have done at the Rehoboth Palm site. And then we will demystify the timing issues that also come up when it comes to housing delivery, using our Damfa housing project example. But before I go into that, permit me to do a short journey into government and housing provision in this country. It's important to stress that government the world over see housing provision as a social protection issue. Indeed, it is the duty of government to ensure that the most vulnerable in our communities are protected. No doubt about that, and rightly so. Unfortunately, government budgets are so tight, and oftentimes there's no adequate funding towards affordable housing provision. For those who do allocations for housing provision, these are so small that they do not have the desired impact at all. Indeed, major streets, even in the advanced economies, have destitutes roaming from one end to the other, with no known addresses or places to lay their heads. In Ghana, the working class who decide to build on their own often encounter land guards with unending litigation. Unfortunately, they may not be in positions to raise funds that are required to pay the initial 20 to 30% deposits that are demanded by the mortgage finance institutions. It is in this respect that Rehoboth Properties seized the opportunity to partner government in year 2018 to undertake construction of some houses for public sector workers by going into contract with the Ministry of Works and Housing. Due to its strategic importance, the project was captured in the 2018 national budget. Although all the 1,000 affordable houses were started and columns to the first to superstructure were raised, the project could not see the light of day. We would have been today talking about 1,000 affordable houses that had been completed for public sector workers. But unfortunately, it couldn't happen. Rehoboth's annual average of 200 houses per annum is remarkable. But looking at the housing deficit stock that we have in this country, as enumerated by previous speakers, we need to combine about minimum 1,000 per annum if we want to have the impact that we are looking for. Developers must come together, especially those of us from the private sector, and do a minimum of 1,000 homes per annum if we want to have the desired impact. Affordable housing experience of Rehoboth. Our first experience into affordable housing was the Nicebridge project. Nicebridge project is located at Kwabenya, here in the Greater Accra region. That was our first into apartments. We started mid-2019, and the project came up facing some challenges, particularly the COVID-19 that struck the world over in the year 2020. We managed to circumvent that, but then unfortunately, because the project was also on a hilly terrain, we encountered serious rocks, and we have to work our way out. I'm happy to say that we managed to do 450 houses in the phase 1, and then the phase 2, which is still at various stages of completion, is also about 350 units. As I said, the COVID-19 struck, and it delayed the project a little bit, but we managed to finish the 450 units. Again, against the backdrop of the terrain, we had all the challenges. But as I said, we managed to overcome that. That project boasts of recreational facilities, such as tennis court, basketball court, swimming pool, sauna, steam bath, a shopping mall, and provision also made for a banking hall, ATM stand, what have you. Somebody would ask, is that an affordable housing? To us, that is what is an affordable housing, because the poor cannot take vehicle and trek all the way to other vicinities to shop. There must be shop around for him to do that. There must be a banking hall, the minimum ATM around his area to be able to cash in some money. His children must have a place to play, and so on and so forth. We call it affordable luxury. You can call it affordable necessity. Then we moved on to the Rehoboth Ayimensa project. Now that project also lent the experiences of the Nicebridge project, and we managed to do over 212 units. And today I'm happy to say that that is also running at Ayimensa. Now we move on to the social housing project, the one that was shown up. When Rehoboth was celebrating its 10th anniversary, we decided that we are going to have a situation where we will move from the apartments and do bungalow type of houses. And it was by popular request. I'm happy to say that we got 100 acres of land, and we have managed to do incredibly well in that space. Whilst we started the Nicebridge at $26,500, at the time 5 cedis to the dollar, this time around, at social housing, we are doing $35,000 per house. If you translate it into Ghana cedis, you get something that is modest. Today, it is even going at $55,000 per house. Remember that my big brother has indicated that most of the materials here are imported, and therefore, I'm an accountant by profession. I'll take my material cost, my labor cost, my overhead cost, and being a private sector man, I'll load my element of profit, and then the price will be determined. Judging by the experiences and calls from TV and radio stations, it is evident that many people are excited about this, and we are going to continue with that. Permit me briefly to also talk about the supply side of the issues that we are confronted with. And that's the way forward. Firstly, we think that developers must be assisted so that government give us construction loans. If you are able to get construction loans at good interest rate, below treasury bill, I think that we may be able to deliver houses at reasonable cost to our clients. We need to have tax exemptions. And why not? If we get tax exemptions, it also feed into the cost of housing. Human capital. We are of the opinion that institutions like TVET must work closely with developers so that they can understand our needs and produce professionals who understand our housing market. We think that there must be dedicated funding. My friend from National Home Ownership has enumerated that they support. But we think that institutions like the Ghana Infrastructure Fund, even the Exim Bank, and state-owned banks must come on board to provide loans that are at reasonable rates to help. Government must also come out with litigation-free land so that we may be able to access them and get the houses for the public. If a developer can show that he has a land, why not? The government must provide funding to support that. Now, briefly on the demand side, we are saying that public sector workers should be encouraged to use their provident fund savings as deposit and collateral for mortgages. Government must support the average worker to access mortgages at concessionary rates for people to buy our houses. They need to be able to access mortgages. No one pays for houses outright. Banks must be funded to encourage to be able to give loans to those of us in the private sector who wants to provide housing. In short, we are of the opinion that if the private sector operated is well funded and is supported, considering the impact that we have had, about 1,000 homes over a period of 4 years, we think that we may be able to help to reduce the housing deficit stock that we face in this country. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, thank you. Let's put our hands together for all our panel members. Let's put our hands together for them, please. Thank you very much. And we're going straight into the panel conversation. And in fact, the questions can come in right from now. So there's going to be a microphone, 2 microphones. You can put up your hand right now. And if you have any questions for any of your speakers, we can go straight into it. And just to set the ball rolling, Professor Fram, the point you made about the mindset of, that's Professor Fram, that you have a microphone. Yes, the mindset of the urban poor or the poor, they want to live close to where they work. And then also relating that to the location of the affordable housing schemes that we have embarked on in this country. So for instance, a number of them are located at the outskirts of the city, and so if you have an urban poor person or middle class person who can afford these affordable housing schemes, to the extent that they are located at the outskirts and it will take them quite some time to get to work, that also becomes a discouraging factor for them. How can this be addressed? Because when you speak to government, the answer they give you to that question is that the lands within the central business district or the central area are also of high value. That would influence the cost element of the affordability. So if they go to the outskirts, it's affordable. So Saglemi is so many kilometers away from the central business district. You have a lot more people who could afford it if it was closer. How do we address this?
Well, that situation, you see, when you have an affordable housing, even for the urban poor, and it's on the periphery, what you have to develop is transportation. If you can get maybe a good train, or maybe a fast, like trams and kind of stuff to run between the place and the city, the cost will come down. So they won't mind. They will go back and stay because they maybe is paying maybe 2 cedis or 5 cedis. He can afford it. If it's a middle income person, we don't worry too much about them because they drive. They may stay too long, but their incomes can take care of it. The incomes can absorb. But the urban poor, his income cannot absorb that. You see, that's why people have friends who stay in Tema and work in Accra. They are on salaries, but they can, if they realize they can, it's not possible, they won't do it. Right? There's a Chinese man who came from China to stay with a friend who's also an architect. So they drive to Accra every time they go back. They ask him, have you calculated how much you are losing? Why don't you stay in Accra and work the weekends you go home? He said in his office in Accra, China, he was doing that every day. Then he decided to buy a small cot bed in the office, install a shower, this kind of shower there, and so he sleeps there. In the evening, he gets down to, China, there are a lot of restaurants around, he eats, and then goes back. He goes only on Fridays. And even work production increase in his office because people know that he's always there. You can't meet him there, you know. So when they added the cost, it was good. So transportation will do that because people could have stayed in Kumasi and work in Accra and go back even if there's a proper train. So transportation will be the best thing to do. Yeah.
Fantastic. Dr. Ancraft, just on the same path, I know you want to add a bit more to it. Apart from the transportation as well, there are other amenities that should be available, is it not? If you have these houses in the outskirts and access to potable water, electricity is also a challenge. That will also be one that
yes.
will be isn't it?
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I think, Prof. Afram is right. I also believe that the first stop is that we're looking at housing people, including the urban poor. So before we consider the transportation element, which relates to living out at the outskirts, I think we haven't exhausted the capacity within the urban space.
How do you mean?
Yes, because, Accra is flat. Most of our capital cities are flat. They're horizontal. And I think the potential for vertical development is huge. And I think we need to explore that. And that is why I ended my presentation on the point that we need to deepen policy. We have a huge policy deficit when it comes to the supply side.
Right.
The supply side strategies are very key to the conversation. And I think in the past we've left that behind. When you look at the kind of people who live in the urban space, we have a wonderful opportunity to go up and also accommodate those who do not have the means to house. So that is why social housing is critical to the conversation, because people are sitting on properties that are only one level. But you and I know that currently most of the developments that are happening in the so-called prime areas, by the way, the so-called prime areas are the old estates that was developed by government. If we have policy depth, we wouldn't be giving that only to the high, middle to high income, right, and also those who are in the 1 or the 5 percentile of the population.
Right.
I think it is a weakness that ought to be addressed, and it requires policy, and that is why the Tripartite Foundation is necessary. Talk to academia, bring industry to the table. How can we equip our local real estate developers? I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world. There are models, talking models, because we don't know.
Hello? The focus should not be on building housing units, but in pursuing social housing, we should focus on apartments. One that, would not necessarily have one person in one location, but, the apartments, number of floors. I think TDC is doing something in that regard, National Housing, right? They built a number of, you have some collaborations that you build a number of apartments in there. But that brings up as well how affordable that is, isn't it? And so the recommendations you make about a fund to address that affordability gap, where should the funding come from for that fund?
Great.
Your recommendation.
All right. Thank you very much. So first, let me support the vertical development as an approach, because when you talk about prime land and the value of the land, the higher you go, the lesser the cost. So you can maximize that by reducing the cost of the land, and then it eventually becomes a bit cheaper. And it's a paradox.
But why apartments in Accra so expensive? If the higher you go, the less costly it becomes. I mean, I saw one that's a million. In fact, the least is 1 million cedis.
Yes.
You can find.
So again, there are a combination of factors, the models that he's talking about. So if government has lands in these prime areas, we can adopt the cross-subsidy approach that if you even give it to a developer to do high-end buildings, then a certain component of that should be devoted to social housing, because you can benefit from the high-end one and then use it to cross-subsidize the lower one, because you've also gone up, and by virtue of going up to several floors, as we've seen in other countries like Singapore and the rest, you would have factored the total cost of the housing into that. Now, let me come to your substantive question about what the sources of fund. I think there are a combination of options, and we are still open to suggestions in terms of where the funding should come from. Definitely, government must commit by way of budgetary allocation, but we can also look at other models like taxes and others to shore up the fund, because it comes with several advantages. It can be used to provide horizontal infrastructure on government land banks, and then private sector would now build on it. And that cost would have been reduced, which would eventually abate the cost of the house itself. And then you will also see master plan development where we'll have all the facilities together. And so we'll be solving several problems if we are able to set up a dedicated fund that would drive investment in the housing. And also lending, you remember Robert said that they need cheaper money to be able to invest. So that fund can also provide funding in addition to other mechanisms that exist, like the Ghana Infrastructure Investment and all that. Yes.
See, at the mention of taxes, I know that the sentiments are not too good for imposing more taxes to solve some of these problems. You have to justify it beyond reasonable doubt, because we're already burdened with too many taxes. I'll come to the audience now. If you put up your hand, I'll come to you, the two microphones, and you speak to it. Nilaya Fotiagbo, since he's representing the Regional House of Chiefs, in fact, the president of the Greater Accra Regional House of Chiefs, on the conversation about litigation, free lands, and then also how, the stool-owned lands can be properly regulated to ensure this land guard-free problems that both developers and even individuals who buy lands are exposed to. What can the House of Chiefs do to complement the work of, say, the Lands Commission and others who have been established to deal with this? Please, a microphone to Nilaya Fotiagbo right in front of us here. Thank you, Ni.
Thank you very much, my brother. It is very important that such programs are organized periodically for people to know exactly what the difference between the lands, especially within Greater Accra, because most of the problems are centered within the capital, Greater Accra. Just because we have areas that the lands are not stool lands, the lands are family lands. From out there all the way to Nungo Pram Pram, all those lands are family lands. Oh. And when you go towards the Shai area, to Dodua, and beyond the Dodua Amraya stretch of the road, all the way toward the boundary with the eastern region, most of the lands in these areas are family lands. So if you are a developer, you are going to buy a land, and you see those people or those who are giving the land, it can't be a stool, it will be a family. Then you should know that what you should be expecting to see from those who are going to sell to you is a title, land title, and that's the end of it. But when you come to our areas, like from East Legon, Katamansu, Nungwa, Apollonian, Oibi, and those areas. Uyarifa is family. But, yes, beyond the Dodua Road is family. And from the Dodua Road towards Accra is stool. This is the enclave where the stool lands are. No stool land crosses the Dodua Road into the Buri Mountains or beyond the Dodua Road. All the lands, all those around that area, they can be guns. But they bought the lands. They bought those lands. Those lands are not part of the stool lands towards the coast.
I see.
You see, so this is what people don't know. And even at Land Commission, because Land Commission, most officials at Land Commission, people want to be rich overnight. They want to be rich overnight. I've been advocating. People can be smart in terms of a book or whatever it is, but the individual character is very important. That's why we should be targeting most of our teaming students who are coming into the military to do the national service over there. By the year of 1 year, by the time they will be there for 1 year, at least something will be imparted into them. And they will know what is no and what's yes.
Okay, so if you're buying a stool land, who do you deal with? And a family land,
you
who do
deal
you
with the chief.
Okay.
The family land, you deal with the family head.
There have been instances where people would have...
Let me tell you some of the mistakes.
Yes.
People are having land titles within stool areas. Meanwhile, they don't have concurrence. That's in danger. And officials at Land Commission, sometimes you sit down and you ask questions. That why are they not aware of the mappings and knowing where one has to come with an indenture before he should be given a title? You must have concurrence from Land Commission. And in areas where the lands are stool lands and someone goes for a title, it's like putting icing on the cake. Let me stand. It's like putting icing on the cake. It's like you have a cake and it is meant for a wedding. You can't just carry the brown cake that we used to see those days when we were young, with the smell of the whiskey and the cognac and all that, and then you just put it on the table that you are using it for a wedding. It wouldn't look nice. So if you have a concurrence indenture plotted at Land Commission's stool lands within the enclave, the areas I've mentioned, not going beyond the Dodua Road, you can decide not to even go for title. And if the officials at Land Commission, you see, we are not punishing people. We are not punishing people. People must be lashed. They must be whipped. They must be, you see, we are taking things for granted. You take money, you go and work hard and make some money with the intention of going to buy a land and build a house for yourself and your children in the future. Then someone will just take the money and then just put you into trouble. Whether you kill him, you put him into hot water, you do whatever to him, he wouldn't get your money for you. You jail him, he's gone with it. This is very painful. So these programs should be coming on. And then I wish you should have invited the Land Commission people.
In fact, we did. Just
are they here?
On record. I don't know if we have a rep from Land Commission. No, but so you see, it's a very important point you make. So the next leg of this conversation is going to be about lands.
Yeah.
Because it's central to the conversation about affordability.
Yeah.
So we get to know this issue about who you are buying lands for, if it's a stool land or a family land. Because there are a number of people with challenges and experiences here that you go and buy land, especially the family land, from one person, and then someone else shows up because it's been sold to another by the same family member.
Exactly.
So in this instance, what should people be looking out for? I think that's going to be the final one from you. What should people be looking out for?
I've told them, I've said it. Accra is where the problem is now, for now. In the future, if we are able to organize such a program, they will extend it to other areas. But in Accra, where we are all looking to have a property, beyond the Dodua Road, from Adenta to Dodua, and then towards Abokubi, those areas. If you are going for a land and one shows you a title, then you are good to go. But if you come around from the Adenta area towards from Ashabotwe, we share boundary with Ashabotwe, we share boundary with Maijo, that's East Legon Hills. Part of East Legon Hills is Katamanso, and then all the way to Adenta, Fafraha area, close to the State Housing is Katamanso. The whole of Alma Research, where there are so much encroachments on today, because the land has been in the hands of government for all the years, is Katamanso, stretching all the way towards Valley View University, NOEB is Katamanso, stretching towards Kubekro, Apollonia is Katamanso. So beyond, from our boundary to the Dodua Road, where we have our brothers on our boundary, like I'm right here, Fafraha, Ashie, Adenta, and those areas, Maijo.
Yeah.
They are settlers, they are from Allah. but there are settlers on that stretch.
Right.
And beyond that side is family. So those developers who are here, asset developers, individuals who are into business, or individuals who want to buy lands to build their houses, should look at these things.
Perfect.
They should be looking up for an indenture with a land title.
An indenture with a land title.
With a land title.
Perfect. Let's put our hands together for Nee.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important. And Nee will be available after the entire program for a bit more conversation on this and some one-on-one on this. But Nee will take it up. This is going to be the next leg of the conversation. That is Tache Nee Laye Akwete, the police and all of the others. Perfect. And he is representing Wade Noche. He is the King Professor Odaifiu Welenchi III, Paramount Chief of Nungwa Traditional Area. He's also the president of the that's the Greater Accra Regional House of Chiefs, Greater Accra Regional House of Chiefs. So it's important that we heard from him on this matter. Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Joseph J. Dankwa. I'm an architect and from the Building and Road Research Institute, Kumasi. I'm very particular about this program because
forgive me, Doc. The lengthy period was just reserved for me. I'll plead that if you have a question, please go straight to the point. No University of Cape Coast kind of approach where you give a preamble long one before you build your. Yeah, I beg you.
All right, so thank you. I'll follow it up from our traditional authority. I have this proposal. I think we are talking about land contestation because we allow it to fester. Is it possible that for every municipal assembly, every district assembly, traditional authorities, when they are doing their planning, because that is where the planning begins, if we can have a certain quota, just like we have our land use patterns, that there should be a certain quota dedicated for affordable housing. And this becomes a legislation so that the district assemblies will have that blueprint. And therefore, when they are approving of the plans, they know very well that this percentage of that land that has been planned is specifically for affordable housing. In that case, no traditional authority will be able to take that land and sell it to any private person for any kind of development, apart from that space that has been designated as affordable housing. And it has its parameters and etc.
Thank you. Thank you. I need to pick one. There's a recommendation. So thank you. We'll have a bit more, because we'll have a conversation after this. Thank you. Yes, there's a hand here, right here in front. There are two more at the back. In fact, three more. You have the microphone, so please go ahead. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Ato Emisa. I'm a government worker and I direct my question to Ghana Home Loans.
National Home Ownership Fund, yes.
Yeah, ownership fund. He was saying that as a government worker, when you earn 5,000 Ghana cedis, they can give you a loan about 400,000 Ghana cedis. Actually, government workers, we don't earn 5,000 Ghana cedis. Honestly. So, what policies?
So, is the majority?
Yeah, majority earned about.
Because there's some data to that effect. Some under 5,000.
So they should subsidize things for us so we can come for money to build. And
subsidize below the 5,000 cedis.
Below the 5,000 Ghana cedis.
Okay, right. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Please. Next. I don't know how low you can go below the 5,000, but it's one that you have to look at. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Percy Anabukari, the president of the Ghana Institute of Planning. I just want to build on what my brother just said, the architect. All this that we are talking about hinge on developing space, and every space in Ghana at least falls within the 261 metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies. And by legislation, the planning authority of every locality rests with the municipal and then metropolitan and district assemblies. So one recommendation would be, and that's what our institute have been advocating, is that once we are doing the land use plans of all these areas, the planners together with the district assemblies would go into some form of negotiation with the landowners, because the land doesn't belong to the government, but what you put the land to, the government has a say through the various legislations. So we will use what you put the land to. You go into some kind of negotiation. When you do a local plan for an area, you designate some areas for possibly social housing and other characteristics like that. So once you go into that kind of negotiation, mind you, if you designate it like that, it's not free. You need to go into some negotiation with the landowners, and they may give it to you by, at a relatively cool rates, or use some other legislations to get it. Then subsequently, you can now use this as a leverage to the other companies or those who would want to come in to provide this social housing. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. There are two hands there. Yes, there's, yes, please. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Roland Azovo, 24-hour economy.
24-hour economy, what?
Secretariat.
And what are you there?
Okay, so I'm the lead for Bill 24, which is basically construction.
Great, thank you.
My question goes to Prosper. He mentioned that 5,000 Ghana cedis, but we have a number of people who will not fall within that, like the factory workers who probably earn like 600 or 1,000 Ghana cedis. If you do the calculation, even 20 years with the UN Habitat 30%, you are arriving at 72,000, which means they are not near the 400,000 or the amount that they mentioned. And we also have farmers, we have drivers, we have a number of people who are within that, because we are looking at 1.8 million. And if you look at that number, probably half of that are people who earn less than 2,000. So how do we get affordable housing for such people? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take, yes, there was one hand here. Yes.
Yeah, so Farouk Brahma from...
We're going to cross over to the studio in a bit. Yes.
My question relates to the role of city authorities in housing. It's been one of the critical areas. We have a local governance system, and the city authorities don't care where people sleep. And so I think over the years we've been struggling. How do we get the 936? There's a fourth schedule on the departments of housing. And as I speak, it's not been activated. So I think it's one area we have to look at. In terms of slum housing and poverty, I'm sorry, the solutions being professed will work for low-income, productive households. But for social housing, Mark, you and I know that the kind of people we are discussing, the normal ways of government provisioning will not do. The private sector, Mr. Sasu, you won't provide social housing. What you can provide is the economically low housing that will be supported by government. State Ghana Home Loans in this very building, it came up through a government loan, through OPEC, 2006. President Kufuor's time. And OPEC gave money to Ghana Home Loans with Kojo and Co. with the hope that they could build cheaper for the poor. It didn't work. So I think we need more discussions on this. Thank you.
Thank you. The way you say emphatically that they won't provide social houses is interesting. But anyway, yes, you will respond. You will respond. Yes, we would cross over.
Yes, my name is Sylvanus Ajonu, the director for Department of Rural Housing. We promote the local materials. So I'm interested in hearing from Rehoboth, especially the real estate industry, to what extent are they using this local material in terms of the laterite and also the stabilized earth bricks, or to say that takpame, going back to that takpame or the rammed earth in housing, and what is the impact on the cost of housing. I also, once I'm standing, want to support my colleague from the National Home Loan on the establishment of a national fund, just like a health fund for housing, if we want to take in terms of discussions for implementation of housing across the country.
Thank you very much. We'll get responses from our esteemed speakers, but before that, I want to show you a video. We went on the streets, sampled a few views.